right, it's a Sunday. I'm actually at my rehearsal space today. I made a video yesterday talking about the minor pentatonic scale and the various intervals in it and how it's challenging a lot of times for people to use it. The one part that I forgot to mention is probably the most important part, that it's also one of the most difficult concepts to explain. That a lot of times if you were to play a chord and then you just play the notes in the chord, even though all the notes are right, it's hard to tell an exciting story. There's not really any twists or turns. There's no build-up. You're just playing along with the notes. I've seen people play solos where they just play just the notes in the chords, and people actually didn't realize they were playing a solo. They thought they were just going along and playing the rhythm guitar part. So one of the easiest ways to understand it, a lot of times if you look at really great jazz players, it's a little bit easier to understand, because a lot of times jazz players, they'll play the chord for the song, they'll play some notes that aren't in the chord to create a lot of dissonance, and then they'll resolve that. And in jazz, the chords change pretty quickly, so they'll do that throughout the song. So if I was playing something like this, is the A7 chord. There's the notes of the chord. So if I was to play this and I was like, and I played, that just gives me, it sounds almost like a regular kind of a blues bass line. But if I was to add a few notes that aren't in there, I can actually make it sound very weird. I can be like, and I would play, some artists like John Scofield comes to mind. I love John Scofield's playing. He plays a lot of notes that are outside of the scale. But back to the minor pentatonic scale, one of the things that a lot of times people that play the minor pentatonic scale don't realize that they're doing. I don't have my looper here because I'm at my rehearsal space. But if I was to play an A7 chord, and then I was to play the notes in the minor pentatonic scale, I would have the root note A. That's the root note of the chord. The next note in the scale is a C, and there's no C in the chord, there's a C sharp. So you get this very, very dissonant sound. Well, then the next note after that is a D, and the D is also very dissonant. Then we get E, and E is a note in the chord. Then the next note's G, and G is a note in the chord. And then we're back to A. So a lot of times whenever people are just playing the pentatonic scale, they'll start out, and it can be super cool. And you don't have to know a lot about music theory, that you can just, and this happens a lot, people play the pattern of the scale. So they play the first note of the scale right on the first beat of the measure. Sounds great. On the second beat of the measure, the note sounds pretty weird because it's pretty dissonant. It's this sound. And then they usually, if we're playing eighth notes, you'll get another one. And then whenever we get to the third beat, we're back to this note that's in the chord. So what happens is, it's actually the same thing that happens in very advanced improvisation, and it happens without even really trying it. You're just playing the scale, you get a good note, you get a wrong note, you get a good note, a wrong note, a good note, a wrong note, and then some of the times when you land on notes that are a little bit dissonant, you'll bend them. So that a lot of times whenever, and I used to have this happen to me, I can remember this, whenever I was at a rehearsal, with my rehearsal space, I was with my friends, we were jamming, I knew what the scale sounded like, I had played the notes, I could just start playing stuff and it sounded really cool. And the guys in my band liked it, I liked it, but sometimes whenever we would get to a gig, and at the gig, things would be a lot different. Maybe my amp was further away and I couldn't hear it as well. or the drummer was too loud, or I couldn't hear the bass player. A lot of times whenever you're playing at different venues, the sound, it can really change a lot. And so I didn't understand quite what was going on, and that was a big motivator for me to learn a little bit more about music theory so I could be more consistent. Whenever I was at my rehearsal space with my friends, I was really relaxed. I had plenty of time to warm up. I could play great solos. It was effortless. But sometimes whenever I'd get to a gig, I couldn't hear myself or other members in the band as clearly. The venue sounded weird. Sometimes your guitar will sound really weird because if you're playing really big venues, that frequently you don't notice until you play really big venues, but you don't get the reflection of the sound. Same thing as if you're playing outside. I've often heard it explained, it's just like your sound just goes forward and just falls off of the stage. But really what's happening is, like here, my rehearsal space is pretty small, so not only can I hear my amp because I'm close to it, but it's reflecting off of these walls that are close to me. If I was in a really huge cavernous venue, I wouldn't get those same reflections, or when I did, they might be a lot later. So the video that I made yesterday, which is going to be following this, I talk a lot about the notes, the various notes in the minor pentatonic scale, how some of them are dissonant and how some of them can be resolved. But I realized after I made the video that I forgot to talk about really the most important part, and it's how some of the notes in the minor pentatonic scale blend perfectly with the chord, and some of them are more dissonant. I did talk about how that dissonance is resolved. So also, you might notice I'm playing my Travis Bean guitar. Jerry Garcia, he's famous for playing Travis Bean guitars. Stanley Jordan used to play them. So did the guys in Aerosmith. I've seen pictures of them playing them. A lot of people. Steve Albini, the guy in the Jesus Lizard. Lots of, I think that the Melvins used to also play them. So it's a really cool guitar. It has an aluminum neck. So if you notice, the neck is solid aluminum. I bought mine used, and it had been heavily modified. I always wanted one of these. They were very expensive. People, they were really sought after, and so collectors drove the cost up. I found this one on Craigslist, and it had been damaged. And this friend of mine, Jason Harshbarger, who's a guitar builder, absolutely one of the most amazing guitar builders that I have ever seen. His woodworking skills are just unbelievable. I don't know if he still builds guitars. I hope he does. I haven't seen him in a while, but his work is incredible. That he repaired this for me. There were big holes that had been. It looked like somebody, I don't know why, chiseled out a hole in the guitar with a screwdriver, and a lot of damage everywhere on the top of the guitar. And if you know what a Travis Bean looks like, Travis Bean usually has a T up here. The metal extends, and there's usually a T. Somebody cut this to make it look like a Kramer. But the guitar sounds great. It's got a really cool, really metallic sound, which you would expect because it has a metallic neck. So, all right, hopefully you'll like the video that's gonna follow up, and I didn't talk too long to cause you to be bored. Thanks for joining me again today, and like and subscribe. Hi everyone, it's Saturday afternoon. I'm back from my studio in Northern Kentucky. I got another lesson for you this week. This one, I'm gonna call it Why Your Blues Solos Sound Wrong and How You're Gonna Fix It. And actually, it's not so much that they sound wrong, but a lot of times it seems like sometimes people don't really understand what's happening. And so if you've been playing the minor pentatonic scale for a while, you probably notice sometimes that some of the notes, they can sound really dissonant. And I'm going to show you why that is and how you can fix it. For those of you who maybe are just tuning in for the first time, my name's Lou Larson, and I'm a professional guitar teacher and a guitar player. I play a lot of gigs. That I'm based out of the Cincinnati area. I have a studio in Northern Kentucky and in Cincinnati. If you want to come in for some lessons, I'd love to see you in the studio, or I can do virtual. So if you have a fast internet connection and a video camera, or not a video camera, webcam, or a camera on your phone or laptop, we can do some lessons. So before we get started, there's a couple of things that I just want to talk about. I'm going to talk about how the minor pentatonic scale interacts with the dominant seventh chord. We're going to talk about A. There's a lot of blues in A. We're going to talk about A blues. So a couple of things that I'm going to outline is I'm going to talk about the root note. You'll hear me say that a lot. That's the A note. We're playing an A7 chord. The root of an A7 chord is the A note. And the A note, you can find it. I've covered this. I always covered it in all my videos. That you can find the A note on every string. It's great practice. So I just finished up a video on the major and minor thirds. I'm doing a series of intervals. The major and minor thirds, that's an interval distance. So it's like if you measured something and you said it was 18 inches or 1 mile. It's the distance between 2 points. So the major and minor thirds are important because this chord is A7. It has a C sharp in it, and a C sharp is called the major third. That note's right here in this chord. Well, the minor pentatonic scale, it has a minor third in it. It has a C natural in it. And that's what we're really going to be talking about today, is how typically we play this chord and then we play the scale over it, and how they're a little bit dissonant. And I always joke with my students whenever I demonstrate this. So I always say that when you have this chord, this is the A7. This is at the 5th fret. I'll put an overlay up. That this chord, the notes in this chord are A, C sharp, E, and G. If I play the arpeggio for this chord, an arpeggio is when you play the notes from a chord in alphabetical order, I would play A, C sharp, E, G, A, or I could do it like this, A, C sharp, put the third on the same string. If I went to do the next octave, I would do A, C sharp, E, G. That's the second octave. So those are the notes from the chord. I'm going to do a series of videos sometime in the future. I'm trying to really comprehensively introduce ideas about music theory and scales, teach people how to play. That the one thing, I won't make any promises about saving you 30 years of practice or teaching you how to play all the great licks in 5 minutes. That my experience, and I've been teaching now for over 20 years, is that as you better build up your vocabulary through playing songs and practicing, you learn more and more, you get better and better, you get better with the concepts. It's not that much different than if you're a mechanic or a carpenter or whatever your job is, that as you do it longer and longer, you get better at it. So the chord has the notes A, C sharp, E, G, and A. So whenever we play the minor pentatonic scale, it has 5 notes in it. The notes are A, C, B, E, G, A. So if you're paying close attention, you'll notice a couple of those notes are not, the note in the scale doesn't match the note in the chord. The note in the chord doesn't match the note in the scale. A lot of that sort of dissonance drives what we think of as blues. So now I'm going to show you this, and this is where we normally see it. So you'll notice this note right here, string 3, fret 6, this is C sharp. And then this note, string 3, fret 5, that's C. So whenever I play this minor pentatonic scale, and I'm going to play the scale again, I've covered this in some of my other videos, but I'm going to play, starting on my index finger, I'm going to go index finger, up a minor third to C. I'm going to go on the same fret to the next string, this is a perfect fourth, D, up 2 frets to fret 7, E, that's a perfect fifth, and then G, which is the minor 7th, and then back to A. I did a really long video on counting the intervals. The video's called something like Why Guitar Players Don't Understand Intervals, and the Devil's Interval explains it all. It's got a really funny thumbnail. The Devil interval doesn't explain it all, but if you watch the hour-long video, you'll have a really good idea of what's going on. But one of the first things that is super important to remember is that I'm counting the number of letters. So the first note is A, and then I'm saying the minor third, which is C. Well, if you start on A and you count to C, you go A, B, C. The reason why C is called a third is because it's the third letter from A. A is the root. That the next note in the minor pentatonic scale is D, which is the fourth. If I start on A, B, C, D, if I count the letters, D is the fourth. E is the next note in that scale, it's the fifth. If I go A, B, C, D, E, that's going to get me to the 5 letters. And then G is the 7th. I have to use 2 hands. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. You can see that it's 7 letters from A to G. That's why G is called the 7th. Now with the G, there's 2 kinds of Gs. There's G and there's G sharp. And so G is the first G we run into. We call that G the minor. It's called the minor 7th because it's the shorter distance. The first G that we run into is the minor, it's shorter. If we continue another fret, it's a longer distance. That's G sharp. That would be a major 7th. I'm doing a whole video series of explaining the intervals. I've only done the overview of all the intervals and then the major and minor second I put out last week. I already did the major and minor third. I'm planning on editing it and putting it out within the next couple of days. So hopefully you'll watch that one. So here's what we want to focus on is that when we play this A7 chord, we have the C sharp. Whenever we play the scale, we have the C. And so if you play both of those at the same time, if I play C and C sharp, hear how dissonant that is? I always joke with my students. I always say, you know, whenever you play that, it's whenever you come back from the war and you find out your woman's got another man's name. That's from a Freddie King song. It's great. Freddie King's a great blues guitar player. And so sometimes people are like, what's that even mean? And I'm like, I think that means that Freddie King had to go to the war, and when he came back, he found out his girlfriend had married somebody else. That's so you play that really dissonant because that's you're pretty sad about that. Now in playing blues, what we see most of the time is that it doesn't sound like this. That what happens is we have this note, and what we do is we bend it. So we have that, and we play this note that's really dissonant, and then we're going to bend that, and that's going to resolve the dissonance. But the bend is also super cool. That falls under the category of dramatic devices. I'm going to do a different video. I'll talk about dramatic devices, bends, slides, slurs, hammer-ons, pull-offs, you name it. But here, what we're doing is we're playing C, and we're bending that note to get rid of some of that dissonance. And this is one of the things that makes blues work. one of the things I see in my teaching studio is a lot of times people that are intermediate guitar players, they have copied someone else's lick doing the bend, and they're like, this is awesome, it sounds really good. But whenever they're on their own, just trying to improvise and tell their own story, they sometimes get confused and they're playing the notes. And this is where they play the notes and they don't realize that the reason why the notes sound bad is because they're playing this chord and they're playing that note, and they need to bend that in order to resolve it. So the other note that we also see is the seventh. So if I play the A chord again, the A7, and I play this G, so the G is actually a part of the chord, but it's still pretty dissonant. And one of the most common blues licks that we see is this note. So G is 2 frets lower than A. Again, if you've been following my videos, the distance from here to here, that's 2 frets. So if I play G on fret 8, I can play A on fret 10. Or if I play G on fret 8, I can play A on fret 5 of the adjacent string. So if I'm playing this, quick review of the A minor pentatonic scale. I had played it, but I didn't show the exact fingering. The way that I usually teach this in class is that I'll have people put their index finger on the root, which is A, and we'll play the first octave. So we're going to go A, then the fourth finger on the same string, it's going to be C, move to the next string, D with their index finger, third finger plays E, G with your first finger, and then A. So that's the first octave. And I really encourage people to practice this in position. Now, when you're playing, improvising, playing a gig, I don't care what fingers you use, but whenever you're trying to memorize it, you'll memorize it faster if you stay in position, you play the same fingers every time, and your brain gets used to hearing the notes in the correct order with no mistakes. So I'm going to go 1, 4, string 5, 1, 3, string 4, 1, 3. Now I'm going to continue the scale. So this is A. This is the first note. Now the pattern changes. So my index finger is going to play C. This is the note we're really focused on. We're talking about how this note's dissonant. D with my third finger. Index finger on string 2, fret 5. E. Fourth finger on string 2, fret 8. This is G. Normally if I'm actually playing solos, I might use my third finger here, and then my first finger back to A, and of course I can stretch down to the 8th fret and get my C. So here's my basic pattern, going from string 6. 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4. So now I'm going to start my backing track, and I'm going to demonstrate. My backing track is just an A7 chord, and then I also did an A7 shuffle pattern. Here we go. So here's the chord. And now listen to this, I'm going to play the C. Hear how dissonant that is? Very dissonant. And here it is an octave higher. So now I'm going to bend this note to fix it. I'm going to go. Notice how nice that fits in. Here's my A. That's the root note. Now I'm going to play the G. Notice that's also a little bit dissonant. So I'll bend the G. And then the other note that's really commonly, this note, this is the 4th, string 3, fret 7. That one's dissonant also, and I'll bend it to make it fit in. And so this is how typically when we're playing blues, we'll tell stories. We'll play this like... Notice here, I'm doing what's called a unison bend. So this is the D note, and then the E note is on string 2, fret 5. So I'm bending the D until it's the same note as E. Jimi Hendrix would always do really cool stuff with this. He would play it, he would follow the notes of the scale. So he'd be like... Here I'm going. So I found the notes in the scale in the second. All right. So I've tried to keep the video really short today. That the main thing that I wanted to point out is whenever you're playing the minor pentatonic over the A7 chord, that frequently when you've copied people's licks, that what's going on is that they are very commonly, they are creating really exciting ideas by playing a note that's dissonant. We could call it a wrong note. It's a note that's not in the chord, and then bending it to resolve it to make it fit in really nicely with the to make it fit in with the notes in the chord. So I just finished my video on why your blues sounds wrong and how to fix it. But one of the things I forgot to do was I wanted to do a close-up on how to do a string bend. So if you'll notice, we're bending the 8th fret. So I'm going to do a bend on the 8th fret. And I'm bending the 8th fret of the 1st string. So there's a number of different ways to do this, but one of the things, it's hard to see, but I have my thumb just above the center line or right here on the edge, and I'm getting a little bit of, I get a little bit of leverage. And whenever I do my bend, I primarily am rotating, it's like I'm rotating my hand like this. That's where the majority of the action of my bend comes from. I also keep my fingers stiff whenever I'm bending. So I'm not pushing, I'm not trying to push with my finger. I'm actually holding my finger stiff and I'm turning my wrist. So I'm using my larger muscles to do the bend. If I play this, so if I play the same scale, it's the A minor pentatonic. If I start on string 2, fret 10, then my C note, the one I need to bend, that's on string 2, fret 13. So whenever I'm doing my bends, if you notice, I always support them. And whenever I say I support them, that here my 3rd finger is playing the C. If I want to bend that, if I just was using one finger, I wouldn't. It'd be hard to control, and then I'm on purpose, I'm making a mistake, like it's slipping out from my finger. If I use multiple fingers to push on the string, I don't have to push the string as far, not as far of a distance, but I also have more control. It's less likely to slip out from underneath my finger. There's my, and then I was doing this is D. I was back in the 5th position, and I was bending D to E. Very common blues lick, Chuck Berry, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then I also demonstrated what's called a unison bend, where I bend the D note up until it sounds like E, and then I play E on the adjacent string. So I'm playing D on string 3, fret 7. I'm playing E on string 2, fret 5. All right. Please like and subscribe. I've had a goal of reaching 300 subscribers, and I've actually passed it. But I found out that in order for my videos to keep showing up on YouTube, that people have to like and subscribe to them for the algorithm to find me. So if you have any concepts that you have questions about, post some comments, and I try to answer my comments. I don't have very many subscribers right now, so it's not that hard for me to answer the comment. I can also ideas for videos. If you think I'm not explaining something clearly, and or there's some concept you'd like me to make a video about, I'm always looking for ideas. I'm happy to do that. If you want to ask questions specifically about things, about specific songs maybe, that I'm always available for lessons. We can do lessons virtually or in person. One of the things that's really cool about doing lessons is we can actually talk about specific songs. YouTube has a lot of really strict copyright rules, which I understand, but because of that, it makes it difficult to play popular songs or to play music from popular songs that YouTube will take the song down, take the video down. They'll cancel the video. And I don't want to spend the time making the video just to have it canceled. But if you want to take private lessons, either virtually or in person, I'm happy to talk about whatever you want, whatever songs you like. So, all right. Another one in the books. Thank you.